In this lesson, I'm going to teach you all about major scale harmony and what to play over 5 different styles. I have an R&B soul, a jazz, a funk, a rock pop, and a bossa nova Latin type song. They all come from the A major scale, and that's the key that I'm dealing with in this lesson. So let's take this first part of the lesson to just explain what harmony is. And really, it's just the building of chords from a scale. So we have an A major scale for this example. That's this scale here. That's 1 octave. Now, as you can see from this chart, it has 3 sharps, F, C, and G. So really, that's what a major scale is. It's just going from, in this case, A, all the way through the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, but using those sharps, 3 in this case. And there's so much amazing information we can get from that. Let's run through this chart and then we'll go straight into the chord progressions and I'll show you some things that you can play over it. So at the top here we have, going across, we have the notes of the scale. And on each of the different notes we can build a triad, a 7th chord, and there's a mode that exists as well. A Roman numeral just tells us what number chord we're dealing with. Let's run through them. So for A, the very first one, that's the set of notes we get, and that's an Ionian mode. So the major scale is the Ionian mode. Stick with me with this because there's a little bit of theory going on here, but I'll try and keep it as clear as I possibly can. If you take the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes from that group of notes, you get what's called a triad. Built on A, it is A major. You don't have to write anything after a letter to show that you're talking about major. So A just means A major. If you just bolt on the 7th note of that collection of notes, that scale, to the triad, you get an A major 7 arpeggio on the 1 chord. That's what that Roman numeral is saying. That's the 1 chord. Uppercase refers to major and lowercase refers to minor. Let's move on to that. So now we have the 2nd degree of the scale, the B. If we keep all the notes of that overall key, you must remember that it was, in this example, F, C, and G. Those are the sharps. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. That's our collection of notes in this particular key of A. So now we have, I'll start with the mode. If you go from B to B, we have a Dorian mode. That's the mode that is built on the 2nd degree of the major scale. If you're interested in all the shapes, all the patterns, all the fingerings of modes in all different keys, major scale, minor, melodic minor, harmonic minor, you might be interested in my music theory course, which I'll put links to below. Or you can just figure it out yourself, very easy to do. You've got just B to B, you can play that in a number of different fingering patterns. You get B Dorian. If you take the 1st, 3rd, and 5th from that one, this time we get a minor triad, so that's a B minor triad. You attach the 7th on, and all I'm doing is just finding the notes and counting. So if I want the 7th, I go from number 1, which is B, and I just go to 7. And that's the note. It's a flat 7 in this case. So we have a B minor 7 arpeggio. That's the 2 chord. Okay, so far, A major 7, B minor 7. I'm going to do the same thing for all of the rest. I'll whiz through it relatively quickly. I'm just doing the same thing though. So now we're on C sharp. Play all the notes from A major starting from there and you get a Phrygian mode. A minor triad comes from there. A minor 7th arpeggio comes from there. Now you may be able to see where we're going with this. When you get, for example, the 3 chord from the key of A major, it is C sharp minor, and here are some of the options we can use to make bass lines, fills, and solos over it. C sharp minor, C sharp minor 7, C sharp minor pentatonic works over that. Because it's minor, you get a bunch of choices. We'll get to that shortly. I'll keep going. D. This is the 4th degree of the scale. And I'm just going D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D. Those are the notes of the original key, the parent key, if you like, of A major. Start on a D, go through all the notes, you get what's called a Lydian mode, which gives us a major triad, a major 7th arpeggio. It's the 4-chord, uppercase because it's major. If it has a major 3rd and a major 7th, it's major. E, E to E. We get something that's very similar looking to a major scale, but it's a Mixolydian mode. It has a flat 7. So the mode built on the 5th degree of a major scale is Mixolydian. We get a dominant 7th arpeggio from that. And just a very basic E major triad. Remember, the triad is just the 1st, 3rd and 5th. D, major triad, E major triad. I went 4. That's the triad built on the 4th degree of the A major scale, to the 5, to the 1, all major. So you could do this. You could learn exactly what I'm showing you now and move, for example, just triads around. And musicians very much say this. That was a 4-5-1 chord progression, and you can make up your own. And when you do that, you're writing music, and you're also practicing hearing famous chord progressions. We'll get onto that when we do the 5 examples. The 6 chord is built on the 6th degree of the scale. I'm going to put it down there on the 2nd fret of the E string. F sharp to F sharp using the notes of the A major scale. Remember, F, C, G, those are the sharp notes. We get the Aeolian mode, which is exactly the same as a natural minor. F sharp, natural minor, A major, related. All of these are related to each other. The triad from that is a minor triad, F sharp minor. The 7th chord or arpeggio is a F sharp minor 7. This is standard for any key. Our example is A, but if you did this in C major, the 6th chord is A, and that would be minor, exactly the same as this. Last one, we have the 7th degree of the scale. We play the mode. We get a dark sounding Locrian mode from which we get a diminished triad. That's a minor 3rd. That's a minor 3rd, and that's how it's built. 2 minor 3rds gives us a diminished triad. Add the 7th and we get an interesting looking G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Which is called a half diminished. If theory bothers you and you find it difficult, break that down. G sharp, well, that's the name of the root note. Okay, minor, well, that's a minor 3rd. Flat 5, I don't know if you know your power chords. Listen to a lot of Rush these days. How was it? Geddy Lee uses 5ths all the time. And that's a 5th where you have a G sharp and then you go 2 frets across, 1 string down. That's a perfect 5th. Well, if you flatten that, you get a flat 5. Another Rush connection there. So the name of the arpeggio is very much giving you a clue what to do. Flat 5, minor 7, it's all there. That's sometimes called half diminished. So there you go, you have a scale. You have 7 notes on the scale. On each degree of that scale, you can build a triad. Very simple triad, 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5, 7, you are adding the 7th in and making 7th arpeggios. And all of these can be played as chords. Here's an A major. Let's go to F sharp minor 7. this is something I might do. I might just sit down and figure out those chords on bass and move them around and put some rhythms to it. And you're writing as you do that, and you're also hearing songs. So this first one is an R&B soul type style. It's 75 beats per minute, and it's a 1-6-2-5. Look at the chart. The 1 is A major, the 6 is F sharp minor, and the 2 is B minor 7, and the 5 is E7. It's like Lego. You take these chords, you build them, and you have some music. I'm going to play the backing track now, and I'm going to just play something along to it and give you some tips as to how you can make your own bass lines up. You can practice over each of these for hours and hours and hours. Don't worry, I'm going to keep this lesson relatively short, but this is an absolutely brilliant thing to practice. Put a backing track on, make up a bass line. So what was I doing there? Well, we are in a sort of R&B soul slow thing, so I was sticking to simple things. Root 5 octave. I'm hitting the root notes, and then I'm just using notes from the key. What key are we in? A major. So those notes can be used to connect up the root notes. That's where you get your melodic bass lines from. Stick to the groove with the melodic bass lines and you get something really cool. I'm not really doing too much here. There, I'm using a bit of A major pentatonic, just a case of knowing what works over what situation. This is A major, the key. And A major pentatonic comes from that and sounds amazing. Plus chord tones, which is, those are your arpeggios. For each of these, do that. Work out your arpeggio on each root note and play it up and down each chord as it changes. That's not a bass line, but it shows you that the notes fit. So you're using chord tones and or scale notes. Okay, it sounds very cold and boring when you talk about it like this, but really when you learn the patterns, you learn the shapes, you connect your ear to the sound it's making, and that's when the magic happens. Let's move on to jazz now. We have a 2-5-1 progression, perhaps the most common jazz chord progression. So let's figure this out. You know, A is 1, so the 2 is B, and we're using 7th chords here. So B minor 7, the 5 is E7, and the 1 is A major 7. 2-5-1, very common sound. What I'll do is I'll put the backing track on. I'm going to start off by playing the mode over each of those degrees. Do you remember that the mode built on the 2nd, that was the Dorian, then the 5 is the Mixolydian, and then the 1 is the Ionian or major scale? It took me a while to learn all these things, by the way, but once I did, it's just there, and it's used in so much music that you better learn it. I'll do that, and then I'll create a more of a walking bass line, a realistic one. And so on. So did you hear that first time round? The B minor 7 fits to your Dorian, the E7, E Mixolydian, and the A major 7, A major or A Ionian. It doesn't matter what style we do, this is a universal thing. You have a mode, you have a scale, you know, chords, they all fit together. Just a couple of tips whilst we're on the subject for walking bass lines. You have this tempo, and those are quarter notes, so you kind of stick to that. B minor 7 first. Chromatically leading up into the next chord works very nicely. That's just quarter notes. The underlying feel, though, is triplets. And that gives you your swing. So that rhythm can be injected in every now and again. That's where you get your swing from. And you don't have to always land on a root. This isn't a walking bass lesson, but if you want some more, what I'll do is I'll put a link below where you can download all of these backing tracks for free with no sign up, and I'll put links to the walking bass lesson as well. If you get something from these lessons, they take me ages to do. I do these backing tracks. I hope to give you lots. Please do subscribe to the channel, give it a like, you know, share and all that kind of stuff, because that helps me grow the channel, which allows me to do this. Right, then we're on to funk. Let's move on to that. So this is just a one chord groove here. We just have one chord going throughout the whole thing, and it's a B minor 7. Consult the chart in this key, that's the 2 chord, and that's Dorian. And that set of notes, it just is funk. It's the sound of funk. It's really cool. If you listen to lots of funk music, if you do jam sessions, this is the one to bust out when you're doing that, because it just works. Let me play and I'll explain a bit later. One of my favourite styles, I could go for hours with that one. First I just did B, A, B with some ghost notes, you know, 16th notes, ghost notes, adding those in, keeping your lots of space, sticking to some rhythms and just creating repeating grooves. That's the thing with funk. B is the root, and that A that I mentioned is the flat 7. Just 2 notes work. And there, that to me gives it the flavour of Dorian, the sharp or major 6th. It's called a major 6th because that's the 6th found in a major scale. Whereas the flat 7, that's found in a minor scale. A minor 7 and a major 6th together with the flat 3rd with the root, i.e. some of the notes in the Dorian mode, it just outlines that sound. And it just sounds funk. I just did this as well. It's a minor mode, and therefore minor pentatonic works over it. Or blues scale, and or blues scale. And that certainly works over this backing track, so you can use that to practice your Dorian licks. Next we have a rock progression 1, 5, 6, 4. So the 1 is A, we have the 5 is E, the 6 is F sharp minor, and the 4 is D. This is a very, very common progression. Make sure you know your major scale. Make sure to number the notes 1, 8 is the octave, but 1 to 7 I guess. 1 to 5, that's the 1. You just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6 is the next one. 4 is below the 5. Even just doing that, you might recognize that. Your ear might pick that out as, you know, you've heard songs that do that. all this stuff. We are in the key of A, so this is how the harmony and the melody fits together. We're in the key of A, so anything A major pentatonic works. Let's listen to what that sounds like over the backing track. This is in a rock pop style, so it's really a case here, I think, of being tasteful and not playing too much. I probably did play too much there, but root notes really work well. Eighth notes seem to work well. If you want some movement, that's the notes from the scale, A major. Here I'm on the 6. I need to know that that is the 6, therefore it's minor, so we have the chord tones off that degree of the scale, the 6, that's a -7. These are options. You do not have to use all those notes. They're just there if you do want to use them. Also, remember the mode from that was F sharp minor or F sharp Aeolian. You don't even need to think about that though. You just use notes of the overall key. So you could just learn one scale, A major, but, and this is non-negotiable, in different parts of the bass. You just play those notes wherever you are in this progression. It will sound good. I'll try and make a more melodic one up now. I was just playing more notes really from the scale there. I've got my iPad here, and when I'm playing sessions or rehearsals or in a gig and maybe there's no rehearsal for the gig and you have a chord chart, just here it's A, E, F sharp minor, D. It's very easy to learn that, but you could just not learn it and just look at it. Going to E, F sharp minor, D. I'm just reading that and not thinking much. Obviously I need to know where the notes are everywhere to nail where each one is, but that's great. That's a really, really good skill to have. When you read chord charts like this, then you can do that. Let's look at the last one. This is probably the most complicated in terms of harmony because we have a minor 2-5-1. Let's just quickly explain that. So A major is related to F sharp natural minor. I mentioned that before. So we're in the key of A major, but let's shift to F sharp minor. That's now our key, and F sharp is now our 1, okay? So in that key, the 2 is G sharp -7 flat 5. That is the chord we got from A major. So here is that arpeggio, G sharp, B, D, and F sharp. We get our G sharp minor with a flat 5 and a flat 7, half diminished that is. Then we go to C sharp and we get a C sharp dominant 7th, which you'll notice does not belong to the key of A. In a minor 2-5-1, what often happens is that the 5 is made into dominant, and that's a borrowed chord from a harmonic minor scale. This is a little bit too heavy for this lesson. But modes of the harmonic minor scale work in exactly the same way. So the mode built on the 5th degree of the F sharp harmonic minor scale, that's where this is borrowed from, is that a Phrygian dominant. Let's not worry too much about that, other than to say it gives you a C sharp 7, which we steal to make a 2-5-1. It's just all about getting that dominant. It gives you a very strong pull to the to the 1. If it was the minor, as in A major, the key of A major, we'd get this. It's not a strong enough pull. That's the theory behind that. So you could use G sharp Locrian. That works over that. C sharp Phrygian dominant. That works over the C sharp 7. And then F sharp minor over this. There are other options, but we're going to keep it simple for this. This is a Latin bossa nova type of a feel. For bass, that really means root and fifths all the way. Absolutely need to make sure you get a flat 5 over that G sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord, otherwise it will sound wrong. Here's how it sounds. I experimented there with simple root 5, then I just whizzed up the modes of each, and that just to show you it fits, and then a few more chord tones. It's a good exercise to do that, although it is overplaying, and I urge you not to do that when you're playing. You can play a bit higher up. Experiment with different fingerings of the arpeggios, and experiment with ways of getting from one to the next. So this is G sharp minor 7 flat 5. You see that nice little motion going from the G sharp minor 7 flat 5 to the C sharp 7. Just go down 1 fret. And you can just connect them up in lots of different ways, and really there's just so much within that lesson that you can practice. Just a little recap and maybe how you might approach this, because I understand there's a lot there. You would probably just start off, as I did with the first portion of the lesson, and just kind of treat it as a bit of a, bit of homework. You have to sit down, you have to figure out the scale, and okay, where's the 1, where's the 3, I don't know, and you'll be all over the place until you find it. Okay, you're going to have to learn the notes. That's going to help you. You're going to have to learn intervals, patterns. All of this is going to help you. Your ear is going to have to recognize this. You could spend so much time on this and do it in different keys as well, but for now just stick to the A. Figure out the modes, the patterns. Don't forget I have that theory course to massively help you and show you all this stuff. And then you can download those backing tracks. Don't get overwhelmed. I tend to give you too much in lessons. Take one of them. Maybe take the rock one, that's really simple. Just start with roots. Couldn't get simpler than that. Maybe connect them up with the notes of the scale. And you'll recognize that the more you do this, the more you'll need to know. But start with one thing. Don't get overwhelmed. Just start with one thing. Maybe just root notes and can you play in time? We're working on timing with backing tracks. Then you can start to craft your own lines. Maybe you would use a triad over each. All the time you're doing this, you're listening to your favorite music in different genres and figuring out, by ear preferably, what the greatest bass players are doing. And you'll see and you'll hear that it's exactly the stuff I've just taught you in that lesson. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching. I'll put a video right here for you to watch now if you like. I'll see you on the next one.